Today we're on our way to another awesome old ruin hidden away in the bush. But before we go there, I want to show you another spot where I shot a very unusual nightscape image. Just outside the beautiful little village of Newstead in central Victoria is a lovely row of elm trees along both sides of the highway. This is actually an avenue of honour and is of great significance to the local community to help remember the men and women who fought in the First World War. The original plantings go back to 1919. Now one day back in the middle of winter, I was coming home from a shoot not that far from here, and it was probably about 1:32 a.m. in the morning, and I'd been shooting this fantastic tree and the mill down at Smeaton. Anyway, on my way back through Newstead, it became very, very foggy, and there was mist all through the air. So I was driving along past this avenue of trees, and I realised that there was so much fog down in the ground, and every time a car came the opposite direction, I was getting this beautiful glow through the fog from the headlights of the cars. So I stopped here just next to the road and decided, well, I reckon I can get a shot of that fog with the Milky Way core directly overhead. So June in the southern hemisphere, the Milky Way core was rising in the eastern sky, and by 1 a.m. in the morning it was quite high above the trees. But back then there were no leaves on the trees, so that was quite helpful for my exercise. So what I decided to do was put my camera on the middle of the road and set it up nice and low down so I could see straight down the middle of the road. Then I was going to wait for the next car to come along so that I could get the glow from the headlights. Now it's a long way off in the distance, so there's no safety issues at all. Well, as you can see at the moment, it's a pretty busy road. Lots of cars, lots of trucks going through here. But it's only about 7 o'clock at night at the minute. At 1 o'clock, 2 a.m. in the morning, it's a completely different story, I can tell you that. I was waiting for ages. I probably waited 30 minutes for the next car to come along and light up my fog. I eventually got the shot, and I was really happy with how it turned out. Now, one of the things you'll often hear from landscape photographers is when they're taking a picture of a sunset or a sunrise or something like that, they will often say, turn around and see what the view is like behind. So that's exactly what I did. I turned around and I saw that there was also an amazing sky facing into the west. So again, I had to wait for a car or a truck to come the other way. And it's really funny here because you can hear the cars coming for ages before they actually get there. But of course, the fog was still there laying down on the horizon, and I got the headlights lighting it up, and it looks pretty good. Well, once again, it's all about taking the opportunities when they arise. Initially, I had no idea of taking this shot, but I got it anyway. Now, we're off to another location, which is not very far from here, and it's another fantastic old ruin. I know you love them, and so do I. So, let's get going. Now, it wasn't too long ago, I was driving along this road on my way to speak at a camera club event, and it was a Friday evening, I think. And anyway, I was driving along here, and just down the road here, I remember looking out the window, and probably a block or so over in the next paddock, I saw the roof line of an old ruin. And I thought, okay, it always pricks my mind when I see such things. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to turn around and have a look. So I went to do that, and I drove up the road, and I came into the property, and I saw at the top of the hill, beyond where I'd seen the ruin, there was a man, it looked like the farmer, just working in his shed. So I drove up the driveway and I said g'day, and I said hello. Okay, so with all of that talking, I missed the turn off. So we're going back now. Yeah, I'm going up the road here now where I met Stephen. I spoke to him just in his shed, and I showed him the work that I do, and he was quite taken with it. And he said, yeah, no worries. I asked him about coming and having a look at his old ruin, and he said, no problem, go and have a look, and I could come back any time to shoot. So that's what we're doing now. I'm just turning up the dirt road, and in just a moment, we'll be arriving at the ruin, so I'll give you a first-hand look at what we saw. All right, so this is where we are, and right here, you'll see in the headlights in a minute, is this beautiful old stone ruin. What about that? And that's what we're here to shoot tonight. Can't wait. Okay, well here we are, and I'm just getting set up and having a look around. I'm going to take a bit of a walk through the building in a minute and just check out what's in there, work out where I'm going to put the lights and the angles. Currently it's about 9 o'clock. It's still just a bit of twilight in the sky, it's not dark yet, so I'm just going to set my camera up. I'm going to use the D750 with the Nikon 20mm f1.8, which is my favourite lens, you already know that. And I'm going to set that to f2.8 for the night sky shot. And probably I'm going to vary my exposures between ISO 2500 and ISO 3200, maybe even go to 6400 later on when it gets really dark, and see how that goes. I'll be shooting for 15-second shutter speeds. Then when I light up the building, I'm going to stop down my aperture to f5. I'll still be shooting at 15-second exposures, but critically I'm going to lower the ISO to about 500 as well. And the reason I do that is to get really, really sharp and crisp foreground shots of the brickwork in particular. So let's have a look around and see what's going on. Well, you can see the veranda's actually fallen down here, which is a shame. That would have looked awesome if it was still on there. But never mind, I can still get in. No floor here, unfortunately. Wow, look at that. Just an old bed just left there. Oh, here we are inside one of the rooms, and you can see there's a beautiful old fireplace in here. Now, I've talked about these before, and I don't always use a shot, but I do tend to want to take a shot to give a warm glow inside the building, and so that's what I've got here. So I'm using a Z96 video light, as you can see. Place it down here on the floor somewhere, so it looks like there's a fire going inside the building here, and it does that effect quite well. But yeah, I don't always use it, probably because sometimes I want the thing to look like there's somebody perhaps living here and a connection to the people that used to live here. Other times it just looks better as a completely desolate looking building. Well, we're in another room here, which is absolutely awesome. And I do apologise to all my bird friends. I seem to have disturbed a whole heap of swallows or something in here. They're flying around all over the place at the moment. But yeah, there's another fireplace in here. That's actually a big hole in the wall that we're looking through at the moment. So I'm not quite sure what's happened to that. It looks like it's been punched out, or maybe it's just fallen apart. But other than that, the ceilings look fantastic in here. There's no floor in here, as you can see. But what a great old building this would have been. Wow. What an absolutely fabulous building. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about my mindset when I come to a location like this in the middle of the night. Now, it's very dark still, and there's no one around. Well, as far as I know, there's no one around. Interestingly enough, the owner of the property, Stephen, just came down to have a chat, which was great. Normally that doesn't happen because I'm often here in the middle of the night. They're all asleep in bed, but he was happy to come. He knew I was coming, and we'd already had a chat about it. And yeah, terrific fellow. And I think his family's coming home from an event later on, so we might get disrupted when that happens. No worries about that. We'll have another chat. But my mindset tends to be that I just get my focus on the surroundings. I have a look and see what is around, put all the lights off, and just get down and have a look and see what I can actually see. It's amazing how much you can see. There's a lot of silhouettes, there'll be trees, there'll be the shape of the building, and then I'll tune into what sounds are out here. And even though it's a very, very calm night, there are quite a few sounds that I can hear. Just probably rabbits in the paddock, and I think there might be a few sheep up in the paddock up further. So yeah, I think it's important just to settle down and tune in and get a bit of a mindset about how you're going to go about the evening. I know a lot of people get a bit toey about being out in the middle of the night on their own. That's not something I encounter, but I do certainly appreciate that. And if that's you, then take someone with you. Have some company, and that will ease it a whole lot. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is PhotoPill's augmented reality view. And you can see as I pull my finger down on the screen that it's actually showing that the Milky Way will come down directly behind the house. And that's exactly what I want to happen. So I took a number of shots of the night sky, and you can see there, I started off at ISO 3200, and I did a few at ISO 6400, make it a little bit brighter just to see how that looks. Then I did quite a number of shots which are just the light painted foregrounds, and you can see them there. I'm not going to use all of them, I don't need to, but I've just got enough there that I can play with. It's really important when you're doing light painting and multiple layers that you don't move the tripod, you don't bump the camera, you don't do anything, which is one of the reasons I like to use the remote control. As you can see here, I've talked about this before, so I don't have to actually physically touch the camera. Now I'm going to just have a look around and see if there's anything else I can shoot. I'm going to do a start trail. When I do that, I'll probably have a cuppa and let that just do its thing for a while. And yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so I'd like to have a little bit of a check of what's happened so far. I spent at least 2 hours here light painting the house. Sometimes when you're light painting, you need to have a little bit longer exposure, because when you stop down the aperture to f5, obviously you're stopping a lot of light gathering potential for your lens and camera. So there's plenty of times when sometimes I'll just put more light in. You know, light painting is not a science, it's an art form. And that's why it's very difficult to teach, because it's something that you just feel as you do it, and experience. You know, the more you do it, the better you become. It's just like everything else. So when I talk about light painting being an art form rather than a science, I think it's very important to differentiate between the technical aspects of photography and the more creative aspects of photography. And I could talk all night about this, but you know, suffice to say, there are two aspects to photography, and both are very, very important. But you know, if you concentrate on one and to the detriment of the other one, you will suffer, because if you don't know how your camera works, no matter how creative you are, no matter how much you can see these awesome compositions, you will struggle to get them, because the camera will be holding you down. It'll be like a millstone around your neck. On the other hand, if you're very fluent with your camera and you know how everything works and you know what all the menu items do, etc., that's fine, but you still need to be able to see in your mind's eye, to compose the shot and to be able to see the angles that are necessary to do the light painting. And light painting is something that you use muscle memory. Lighting these old buildings, you sort of get into a groove and it becomes a fluent thing. So as much as you'd like to sort it out and put it into a box, it's not quite like that. And so I guess summing up light painting, there are so many aspects that go into it. There's the tools that you use. Which lights do you use? Do you use LED lamps? Do you use incandescent lights? Do you use CTO gels? And so I use all of those things. Do you change the white balance in camera? Well, I do. In fact, all of my Nightscapes, I set the white balance to a particular Kelvin number. I don't rely on auto white balance for anything. I don't believe you should with any night photography. Daylight photography, sure, go for it. But night photography, you have to set a Kelvin number. No matter what you like, set one. And as far as the camera settings, when you come to light painting, I think it's very important not to let the camera decide any parameters. So no auto exposure metering, no nothing like that. Make sure that you set everything in manual, set the shutter speed, set the aperture, set the ISO, and then you won't have any variance between all of the shots that you take. If you want to shoot at f4, f5, f5.6, even f8. I've shot a lot of light painted buildings like this or structures or cars or whatever at f8. You'll get a deeper depth of field, which is one of the things that we're looking for in the first place, but you just need to put more light in. So the rule goes like this: the further away you put your light, the more light you need to put in. The closer you are with your light, the less light you will need. If you stop down the aperture from, for example, f4 up to f5.6 or even to f8, you're going to have to double the amount of light you put in because you're closing down that aperture. If you increase the ISO, then that's a similar thing. If you increase the ISO, you're going to have less light required and you'll blow it out sooner. If you lower the ISO, and a lot of people say to me, why don't you just shoot at ISO 100? Well, I can shoot at ISO 100, but I've got to put an awful lot more light in. And I haven't noticed, with the cameras I use, I haven't noticed a whole lot of difference between ISO 100 and ISO 500 as far as noise levels are concerned. So I tend to go to, you know, that sort of low mid-range of about ISO 500. Well, that's another Nightscape Images adventure done and dusted. I spent a lot more time here than I originally intended to, but I think I just got a bit carried away exploring the old building and just looking around here. It was fantastic. I've been here so long that the moon has actually risen. You can see it over here in the side of the frame. So anyway, I'll look forward to catching up with you guys next time, and until then, see you later.